round of qualifying here in Super Street. And we've got Adam Bowers and Guy Greenland. Big burnout there from Guy Greenland in the Holden wagon. Guy running for Grimer's Garage. The LSA on board in this one. Bit of a sleeper. Bowers in the HQ running for High Performance World. Forza Performance. With an 0.74 reaction time. Greenland with a 233 red light. It's a bit uncharacteristic for him. Bowers through with a 10.55 with a 2.123 mile an hour. And a 10.94 with a 6 there for the wagon. Andrew Heinrich now in the VN Commodore.
I love his number plate. Fully sick.
I can't read that from here, but...
Oh, it was closer when I read
okay.
it. In the VN Commodore from Dubbo.
Taking on Chris Zammett in the VT. Chris from, you could probably nearly see his house from here, from Doonside.
Yeah, almost. Both boys in full staging. Green light, one red.
090 red for Chris Zammett there. But he's out in front. And he'll take the win line here with a 12.24 with a 111 mile an hour run out of the VT. And Andrew Heinrich, a 13.23 with a 1.105. Next up, we've got Chris Greach in the VZ utility, running for Perfection Racing, taking on Chelsea Smith. Smith in the white Commodore sedan. 0.57 reaction time for the utility to an 0.84 there for the sedan. The ute out in front, just stretching his legs now, and we'll run on through for a 10.68 with an 8. And Chelsea Smith with all the ones, 11.11 with a 1 at 1.26.
You wouldn't see that very often.
No, you surely wouldn't. We had one pass before that was, I think it was had all 4s in it, 9.44 with a 4, and then at 1.44 mile an hour.
The ultimate would be a 2s, but that'd be a quick pass.
Yes, it would be. I don't think we'll see that in our lifetime.
No, I'm just saying, like I was just thinking of Richie Benno, that's all.
Yes. Well, you might see all 6s if you're a Kiwi.
Yeah, true. True.
Henry Spikak in the white Holden utility taking on Peter Valaris. Valaris running for Go Logistics. He's our fantastic bracket sponsor here for Super Street. Is Go Logistics. This Falcon manually shifted, 363 cubes of Windsor under the bonnet. Peter very aggressive with this car. Big wheels up launch. Clear daylight under both front wheels. Straight down the centre of the lane though, runs on through for a 10.81 with a 3, 124 mile an hour. Spikak in the black utility, a 12.08 with a 6 at 117 mile an hour.
That was impressive.
It was a good wheel stand there for Pete Valaris, running for Go Logistics. Timothy Ritro now taking on Nathan Gosen. Gosen in the Ford Capri, little Windsor. Running for Big H Racing and BG Engines. Shift right transmissions. Prepping the gearbox in this car. Our number 1 qualifier at the moment with a 9.93 with an 8. Ritro in the VX Commodore. A regular runner here at Sydney Dragway. 005 red on the tree for the Capri. No consequence to that right now. 10.02 with a 1, 135 mile an hour through the finish line for the Capri, and 11.63 with a 3 at 115 for Ritro in the Commodore. Next pairing up, we've got Jim Raptis in the Holden Tirana, taking on Sean Smith in the Holden Commodore. According to the data on the screen here, Stu, Jim Raptis' car still running the 253. Only 4.2 litres on board.
As you do.
Oh, I don't think there'll be many people out there running a 253 in their Holden these days.
Just want to quickly apologise to people that might have been sitting at home trying to watch what's been going on. Realistically, there hasn't been much happening because we had a bit of rain and stuff like that, but due to the old technology, the old internet can have some bugs in it every now and again. So, yeah, we do apologise for that, and we're getting things sorted because we want to make sure everything's up and running correctly for when the big boys hit the track tonight and tomorrow, and look forward to it for round 1 of the Burson Australian Top Fuel Championship as Raptors gets away.
Looks like Sean Smith's broken on the start line. Jim Raptis will run on through for a 10.89 with an 8 at 125 mile an hour through the finish line. Big burnout under process from Luke Tex Griffiths in that big Plymouth Satellite. Tex a very, very competitive racer here in Go Logistics Super Street. We saw the car pop both wheels off the start line in his first qualifying attempt here this morning. Big 505 cubes. Plymouth power plant under the bonnet. 077 on the tree. Running on down for a solo in the airflow lane. Let's see what he can produce. A 10.40 with a 9 at 128 mile an hour. A little bit quicker than his earlier pass at a 10.47. But that car, a very well sorted machine. I think that looks like it concludes Go Logistics Super Street qualifying, Stu.
And the Western Weekend Junior Dragsters are due up next.
And of course, Junior Dragster, the category for kids 8 to 17 years of age.
Oh, perfect. I just fit into that bracket. Age bracket, that is, too, by the way, I'm talking about. Oh, there's some comedians in the background here, Bushy. They're talking about height and all that kind of stuff. Wow.
Must be tough being perfect, Stu.
For some of them, yep. So, Bushy, you can talk about these junior dragsters because you used to race them, correct?
Yes, it was.
How long ago was that?
Oh, 23 years ago this year. Thanks for making me feel really old.
I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, yeah. It was about the same time that our illustrious commentary leader raced them as well.
Oh, Russell?
Yes.
Pretty cool having the Atmos bikes down on trackside to be able to get that.
Quite surprising what you can actually pick up from the Atmos bikes. But of course, the Junior Dragster is running a single-cylinder side valve power plant. Pretty much all of them run on methanol fuel. They run a centrifugal clutch, so basically like an automatic, but they're a variable drive. Change the gear ratios change via a rubber belt. And quite an effective little race car. They don't require a huge amount of maintenance. They can be very, very consistent. And a great learning curve for the next generation of drag racers to maintain a car and prep a car, go through all the entry procedure, understand, mechanical aptitude and all that sort of stuff. It's a fantastic class. It's been around for probably close to maybe not quite 30 years in Australia, but certainly nudging 25. So on track now, we've got Alira Cardam from Noble Park in Queensland, running for Speed Pro RK Carpentry. And in the Rocket Lane, we've got Tegan Smith running from Albion Park, running for Power Cruise Promotions, Jet Flow Plumbing, Speedy Stiffs, APM, and JM Auto Repairs. .081 red on the tree for Lyricardum. 070 for Tegan Smith. And a 796 with a 481 mile an hour there for Tegan Smith. A little bit too quick. She's looking for an 800 or slightly slower. An 802 with a 2 there for Lyricardum. So nice pass for her. Next up, we've got Jake McNamara taking on Archie Boscovich. Boscovich in the Rocket Lane, running for Liverpool Glass, Diecast Mania, and Bosco Autos. He's a third-generation racer. Here's Archie. McNamara in the Aerofo Lane.
So how hard is it to drive one of these cars?
They're fairly straightforward to drive. Probably the trickiest thing is just getting used to the clutch off the start line and coming up with a procedure that works to cut consistent reaction times and stuff. I mean, we regularly see very good reaction times out of these drivers, and it's all done off the foot brake. There's no delay boxes, no electronics to aid that. It's all purely done with the eye, the brain, and the foot. So an 035 there on the tree for McNamara, meaning he left the start line 35 thousandths of a second after the light went green. He'll run on through for a 791 with a 481.4 mile an hour. And Boscovich through with a 1202 with a 4 at just under 53 mile an hour for him.
Yeah. So just if people are here and first time they've seen junior dragsters come out and do the thing, they're not running the full track here. They stop down there at where the orange cones are on the top of the fence.
Yeah, which of course is the 8th mile mark. Of course, these cars are based on half scale of a top fuel dragster, so roughly around half the length. Certainly not half the horsepower. I'm sure the kids would really love that. But certainly a fantastic introduction into the sport of drag racing for the kids.
And then they turn in just over where the normal finish line is pretty much.
Yeah, you see there's a break in the wall just past the readout boards at the bottom end there. The kids will turn the car around, come back up the return road a little bit, and be connected up to a tow vehicle. But of course, weather conditions do play a little bit of havoc with the tuning in these cars. Obviously, being such a small capacity engine, the atmosphere does affect them quite a bit. We've got Max Perry out on the start line there. He's left with an 015 reaction time. Very good light from him. And an 8071 ET at the bottom end of the racetrack. So running nice and consistent. He ran an 808 with a 1 in his first round. Todd Wagner there, a 1214 with a 52 mile an hour in the Aerofo Lane.
It's pretty amazing when you put it in perspective. They're roughly doing around the 80 miles per hour when they get to the end.
Yes.
And you work that out in kilometres. What's that? Roughly about 130
odd kilometres an hour. Yeah.
Shows they're moving, these little cars. Race cars. I shouldn't say cars. They are race cars. Fully fledged race cars. They're purpose built.
They are. Same style of roll cage that you will see in a top fuel car, just obviously a little bit smaller. They run a 5-point harness. The kids wearing the hands device and all the fire suit and all that sort of stuff. So quite a safe car to be in. Claire Little from Forbes in the Aerofo Lane, running against Samuel Perry in the Rocket Lane. Little out with a slightly better reaction time. And she takes the win all the way, 799 with a 680.93 mile an hour through the finish line, and an 814 with a 983.63 mile an hour there for Samuel Perry. So a little bit better speed out of the car in the Rocket Lane, slightly slower on the ET. Next pairing up, we've got Ross Lamantina Victoria, running for Rocky Lamantina and Sons, of course. Previous run here this afternoon, 8:07. Wanting to run a time similar to that, because of course these kids will have to pick a dial in for their first round of racing. In beside Ross, we've got Daniel Carranza. Carranza from Victoria. Fantastic to see them make the tow to Sydney Dragway also. Running for Penrite Oils. Lee Meehan Roofing. And the Tile Co. Daniel's qualified so far with a 7.95. And an 0.42 on the green side for Ross. Nice side-by-side pass though. 8.08 with an 8 to an 8.06 with a 7. So Ross running some 13 thousandths of a second difference between his two passes. Basically nothing.
Yeah.
Next bring up, we've got Alex Rothenbury from Picton taking on Ryan Pettiford of Fairfield. Pettiford running for Arnox Enterprises and Fine Line Motorsports.
So, Bushy, some of them don't have a rear wing, like obviously looking at both of these cars that are down here now. Why has one got one? Why does one not have one?
I'm not 100% sure, but there may be a minimum weight break.
Right.
So some cars will put the wing on. Also, if the driver wants the look of the wing too, I guess.
Yep.
I can't say that they would. They're not a critical element of the car in terms of like we see in the top fuel dragsters in terms of downforce and that sort of thing. But I do feel the car they do look the part with the wing on the back.
Yes.
So 001 red for Ryan Pettiford. He was 1,000th of a second off perfect off the reaction time. And runs on through for an 8.47 with a 0, 77.5 mile an hour there for Ryan in the rocket lane. And Rothenbury in the Aeroflot lane, 8.61 with a 7, 76 miles an hour. And looks like we've got one more car to round out qualifying, and that will be Joshua Burtonshaw from Albion Park for D&J Haulage. MacArthur Signs and Graphics and Scorpion Racewear.
So seeing, I assume, Dad down there right now, what's he doing to the...
Probably just adjusting the an idle screw or a mixture screw, I'd say. All the teams have slightly different start line approaches. Some will come up because they have a stall, basically a stall converter in the clutch, which you can obviously hold the car with the brake, bring a bit of RPM up. But a lot of racers these days just go in at idle and take off from there. So 005 on the tree for Josh. So his start line procedure obviously worked out for this particular pass, and he'll run on through for 7.88 with a 0.81 mile an hour there.
Impressive. Hats off to all the kids and mums and dads and family members that get these kids to the racetrack and get them out there to learn what it's all about, because as we spoke about before, it's all about the future for the sport as well. And that's what we've just seen with those 15 kids just out there just doing their thing.
Yes, well, I think it obviously ignites a fire and an interest, and you know, we see Junior Dragster has been a very good breeding ground for Australian champions in Australian drag racing as a whole. We've seen a number of the competitors go over to the US and run pro stock over there. We've got a former Australian top fuel champion in Kelly Betts. She's ex-junior dragster. We've got Benny Bray, he's ex-junior dragster. We've got a number of commentators that also race cars and do very well. Mark Allen out of Queensland, he's ex-junior drag.
Well, he's still racing, isn't he, Mark?
And he's still racing his modified dragster. Very, very tough. Whether he's in his modified dragster or he's in his street car at a street meet, I wouldn't want to pull up against him in
Or in the commentary box.
Or in... oh, he's all right. He's pretty safe in the commentary box. But
he's a fairly decent-sized man, tall-wise I'm talking about.
Are you leaving the door open for a short joke there, or...?
No, I am the short one, so I'm fine.
Yes.
So I'm the first to admit it.
But, yes, this, and I mean, there are a number of other competitors, which I'm sure that I forgot, have started their racing career in junior dragster, which is just fantastic to see that they've been able to continue on into the sport and be very successful at it.
Yep. The bikeview.com.au modified bike coming out now.
Okay, we've got Darren Goulder from Chain Valley Bay in New South Wales, running his Harley Davidson Destroyer, taking on Brant Gulliver on the Suzuki, running for Mick Home Motorcycles.
Decent burnout by Darren.
Doesn't sound like a Harley though, does it?
No.
Now Brant in the Rocket Lane, he had a couple of issues in his first round of qualifying. The bike broke on the start line after a monstrous burnout. He's tamed the burnout down a little bit this time around. Let's see if he can get down the track and get a number recorded. And the competitor in the Aeroflow lane, he's run as best as a 10.19 with an 8 earlier this afternoon. Leaves along with a 1.12 reaction time. Brant Gulliver in the Rocket Lane, 0.74 his reaction. He's out in front at the moment and should take the stripe, runs through for a 10.13, 126 mile an hour through the finish line, and a 10.17 with a 9 at 131 for Darren Goulder there. Next up, we've got Christopher Hocking in the Aeroflow lane, running for Smart Looking Sheds Australia. Leaves the line with a 1:41 reaction time. Hocking way out in front. He's going to take the stripe here for sure. And he'll run on through for a 9.51 with a 5, 151 mile an hour through the finish line. And the bike in the Rocket Lane there, an 11.17 at 129 mile an hour.
So Darren's moved up to 8th, I think it was, in qualifying. Travis McClafferty, I was thinking that's what it was, on a United Speed Shop Suzuki GSXR 750 in the Aeroflow, and Dale Williams out there on the Yamaha R1 998 CCs. Let's see what these boys can do.
Yeah, the R1, one of those very quick motorcycles out of the box. .068 on the tree for McClafferty. 0.97 on the tree for Dale Williams. Nothing in the reaction time. I tell you what, there's not too much in the ETs either, but Williams will get there first. 9.68 with a 5 at 141 mile an hour, and a 10.14 at 134 there for the rider in the Aeroflow lane there. Michael Williams just stretching away at the bottom end of the racetrack.
Anybody that gets on a bike and does this, I just take my hat off to him. Sean Ricketts up against Joe Curry. Ricketts in the Aeroflow lane on the Quacker 2X12R, up against Curry in the Rocket Lane on the Harley Davidson Destroyer 1430 cc's.
Yeah, both races are very, very competitive.
So, if I'm reading this correctly, both these boys were 1 and 2 after qualifying session number 1.
That's correct.
Joe, the quick man at the moment in the Rocket Lane. Let's see what they do. Both with pretty decent reaction times. Looks like Curry in the Rocket Lane. Ricketts coming back. Curry gets the job done with a 9.016 at 142 compared to a 9.18 at 144. Good race between those two.
So,
they still stay 1-2.
That's exactly right. Ricketts picked up about a 10th, and Curry went slightly slower, but certainly fairly consistent based on his earlier run. Alrighty, the next pairing up, we've got Robert Simmons taking on Bobby Joe Simmons. So a bit of family rivalry here.
That it is.
Now we hope that Robert is able to put together a nice clean pass this time. The bike tried to throw him into the wall at the last run. So again with a red light for Robert with an 0.45, but he's out in front and will take the win with a 9.21 with a 155 mile an hour. Bobby Joe in the rocket lane, she runs through for a 9.57 at 1.53.
So puts Bobby Joe 5th in qualifying. And Robert 3rd in qualifying. So that was 11 bikes, I do believe. That should be the bikeview.com.au modified bike done. We're up to super sedans, I believe, quite possibly.
Yeah, they shouldn't be too far away, of course.
I think this was our last group, wasn't it? Super sedans, and then the other boys were jumping into super gas after that.
Correct. Correct, Stu. We can't be too far away. We can see Chris Matheson down on the start line, just taking in some observations, casually strolling around, gathering his thoughts. Just waiting on the next group of cars to come through under the tunnel. I hope everybody is enjoying round number 1 of the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship here at Sydney Dragway this afternoon.
Believe it or not, we actually have sun poking through. Can't see it because it's behind us, but it is coming through.
Well, I wonder what sort of curveball that throws the crew chiefs and the racers in the staging lanes behind us, because they may have set everything up to work on a slightly cooler track.
Yep.
And now we get this 10-15, if you get 10-15 minutes worth of sun, obviously the track temperature comes up.
Changes, yep.
Changes. The rubber on the surface changes a little bit in its consistency. You might get a slightly better reading, traction-wise or whatnot. And the tricky thing is a lot of these competitors don't always want them to dead hook on the start line.
So is hopefully you can answer this one, Bushy. Is this one of the pro stock? I'll jump out and put Matty Kavanagh in. All
right, ladies and gentlemen, looks like we've had a change in the schedule. Thank you very much, Stu McCarthy. We're also going to have a change in the commentary with Matty Kavanagh coming on board. We're getting into round number 1 of a pro stock here this afternoon.
How good is it to have them back on track? Of course, 400 cubic inches of purely naturally aspirated V8 goodness, about to bless our ears.
It's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to bless our ears for sure. These things, very free revving, have a very, very clean engine note.
Yeah, and have a look at this one. Rick Chilton from the ACT, of course. This is the ex-Wayne Daly car, actually. He's had it for a couple of years, well, for just over 12 months now. He got out of the scene for a bit.
Yes.
Rick Chilton said he wasn't going to do pro stock racing, and then Wayne Daly upgraded his car, and you know what? All of a sudden, Rick Chilton's got this brand new Dodge Avenger. Well, you know, a fairly new Dodge Avenger. All thanks to Ross & Co Electrical and Lulu and Sis Cakes and Cookie. And alongside fellow Canberran, well, just outside of Canberra, out of Caribou, New South Wales, Bruce Leake from BL Plumbing in the Pontiac's GXP. Now, Mr. Leake, well, what can we say about him? He's been around for a very, very long time. It goes way back to when he won his championship in 1994. So he's been doing this for quite some time, Mr. Leake. And, of course, his son Thomas racing this afternoon as well.
Yes, as you say, Bruce, a former Australian champion. The old Oldsmobile Cutlass back then. But been in the sport for a long, long time.
Just loves it, doesn't he, coming down here? Pro stock we're going to see, and can they crack into the sixes here at Sydney Dragway today, here at the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. You might see a low 7 here this afternoon. A red light's not going to matter. It's qualifying session already off the gas too for Rick Chilton. He got away. 102.9 to the 60, not too shabby. We talk about the 60-foot. That's what we're talking about. Can he go any further than that, and what are the times? So Pro stock out on track at the moment here for their qualifying session number 1.
Well, looking at Chilton's car from behind there, it seemed to, it hasn't looked to have struck the wheelie bar, but certainly looked to lift the front end. So both cars, I couldn't quite see what happened to Bruce Leake off the start line, but certainly unrepresentative passes from both those cars. Next up, we've got Clint George and Daryl Stephen. Clint George from Shelley Beach, running the Pontiac GXP. Of course, Clint running B-Gas for a long, long, long time.
Yeah, he did run it there. It was only in 2019 that he really was a rookie in this category too. So he's only fairly recent to the pro stock scene there. And of course, Daryl Stephen alongside in the CC Royal Vending Equipment Ford Mustang. Another one who has really come out with this team. Daryl Stephen only the last couple of years, the Ford Mustang. Remembering that he only licensed in this car in early 2020. So
yes.
And with all the stoppages we've had with obviously the climate out there, with everything going on in the world, doesn't mean he's seen too much racing either.
No, so he's certainly not a rookie, but you could say that he's a rookie to pro stock. Daryl has run all sorts of different cars. Majority of his racing done in super gas, which of course is a very good breeding ground for pro stock races. Of course, they run on a Pro Tree in a sedan style car. But it's fantastic to see Daryl making the step up into pro stock.
When we talk about this, you're probably talking, if we see a good run, we'll see him in the 690s when it comes to pro stock, but we'll probably see about a 7.0 in the weather conditions we got today. Track's pretty good out there. Of course, being naturally aspirated, they need optimum air.
Yes.
Is what they need.
And I'd imagine that the air would be fairly humid at the moment.
You would think so with the cloud cover as well. So with that cloud cover, a bit of humidity out there may sort of hinder the performance slightly. And we're talking like between the top and the bottom pro stock guys, you know, respectively, probably only talking maybe 40 horsepower, you know, over the whole field. And big difference, like, it comes down to a lot of how the clutch work goes. You'll see these guys come and wear tyres in for simple things like just to take a bit of rubber off to change the weight of the tyre and the diameter. So little things like that is how they fine-tune these cars.
Yes, it's fractions of changes that make a big hole, don't they?
Yeah, big one's going to come with the clutch setup, and of course the tuner's going to be down there. The shocks and these things, they get underway though. It's a nice start from both of them. Stephen and George alongside each other towards the centre line. George looks like he's out in front. We'll cross the line first. 7.05 at 193 with Daryl Stephen at 7.78 at 138.
Tell you what, Matty, there was nothing in it to the 60 foot. There was only 5 thousandths of a second difference there between the two cars, but a nice pass there for Clint George. 7.05, 193.
Yeah, it was there, and 7.78 at 138 for Daryl Stevens. So he didn't make it all the way down the quarter. He had to get off that a bit earlier. Next up, Mario Polito in our lane number 1, the Aeroflow lane, all thanks to JD Concreting and Penetron. The blue Chevy Cobalt gets the burnout done. And alongside of him, the Dodge Avenger of Nino Cavallo from Victoria has done the trip up, come up the Hume Highway, and it's good to see Cavallo drainage on the side. But great to see Nino back. He had some really good success last year here at Sydney Dragway.
Indeed, Matty Cav. Big thanks to Steve Bush for just stepping in there and taking over for the first part of this session. And I apologise, I should have been on time. I hate to be late. But anyway, it is pro stock time on track now, and these guys playing for the big bickies this weekend. $10,000 on offer And it's always nice to have a big dollar shootout when it comes to these kind of events, especially when you've got a good crowd in the house. Of course, it is Friday. We're warming up to tomorrow. This is qualifying. Tomorrow is race day, but with 9 cars on the property, it means there is going to be a bye run in the first round tomorrow. It's going to be very important to make sure that at least if you're racing, you want to try and get that bye run. It's going to be an interesting kind of situation at the moment in terms of the weather, because all the humidity that we've got around it is humid out there, a lot of water grains in the air. These guys aren't going to be making huge amounts of horsepower compared to what they usually do. That 7.05 from Clint George was a sensational run in the conditions.
I reckon that's a bit of a warning sign there, because tomorrow the conditions are going to be different, but already he's managed to get the car down, which means he's got a bit of data also.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That was a great run in these conditions. And, well, it looks like Cavallo's being pushed back down there, unfortunately.
Not a great sign, and we can see the universal pointing, which means they're looking for a bit of fluid out on track. Nino will be wanting to get that car down there. Of course, last year, it was May last year, we had a great success where he took home the win here at Sydney Dragway. Been a while between drinks, really, to get the cars out.
100%, 100%. It is a shame to see that car being pushed back off the start line, but nonetheless, I'm sure we'll see them back. That car is probably one of the biggest horsepower cars in the field. They have certainly got plenty on board, that is for sure. But let's keep an eye on Mario Polito. He's going to go on a solo pass here. He's actually staged up crooked. That's going to hurt him. I'll say right now, it's pointing towards the concrete wall down there, and I'd say that's the direction it's going to go, and that's exactly where it does go. He's well and truly out of the groove. Reeps it back in. Pretty good drive job in the end, and 718, 191 miles per hour. It was a little bit lazy off the start line. Went 105 to the first timing marker, which is a 60-foot cone. If you have a look out there in front of the Christmas tree, you can actually see there's that foam block out there. That's the first incremental timer. Now, usually what we can tell by the time you get to that mark, whether or not the car's going to be a good run. In pro stock terms, you want to see things generally around the 100 mark. If they're on a 100, they're on a really, really good run. If they're in the high 0.9s, they're on a really, really good run. 105 is a little bit lazy, but that being said, it is only the first pass back after a pretty extended layoff.
And when you come in from a drag racing perspective, we look at it here in the times, that's exactly what we look for. You have to get that start. You can't catch that up with the horsepower these guys have. It's not like the Pro Mod style cars where they can wind them in, lock the converters up and get that at the far end. They've got to get it right the whole way down the track. They're on a fine edge. So like you say, that 60-foot marker, just over 18 metres to put that in perspective.
100%. And you've got to remember that these guys are driving these cars. There's no air shifters in these cars, no automatic transmissions. They're leaving off the clutch. So they're actually, when you see those lights flash, they are dropping the clutch. And every time you hear that car change gears, they are manually plugging the gears. It's a sequential style gearbox. Excuse me. Most of these cars, in fact, all of these cars run a Liberty gearbox, which is a sequential. Basically, you go forward and back through the gears to plug each gear, and it really, really is a driver's game, this particular bracket, because races are won on the start line. It's all about reaction time. It's all about being able to hit your shift points, and it's all about knowing exactly what the car is doing and making sure that you're in tune with the car. And if you can do that, those are the drivers that are going to win.
It definitely is a driver's sport, this one, when it comes to pro stock, because you've also got to cut a good reaction time as well. You can't be left sleeping on the light. Now, remembering that we've got a pro tree here, which basically means everyone gets a green light at the same time. They get a flash of ambers, they go green, and everybody takes off. So reaction time is super important when we come to these categories.
If you're 020 or slower in pro stock, you're slow. That's really what it comes back to. You really want to be under 0.02 in terms of the reaction times. As we see Rob Decker come out, I believe he's got a new power plant under the hood of that car. Has only done a handful of meetings. Already logged a 6-second run. I think it was at Grudge Kings late last year.
A 6.98 he ran at Grudge Kings, late last year. So he's first time into the sixes.
Yep. And that's got to give you a big shot of confidence. And Chris Soldatis, let's talk about him. He has been a perennial championship contender over the last few years, has certainly been one of the front runners, but over the last couple of race meetings, and I say couple of race meetings, which has actually spanned over the last couple of years, let's be honest, with the COVID situation, has kind of gone off the boil a little bit. We've seen him have some good runs every now and then, but it's not like you would say he's been consistently at the front.
I suppose not like the previous championship where he ran. It really came down to the final race there, and unfortunately he missed out on that one. He actually didn't qualify there. That was at Winter National, so
yeah,
he was all the way up there, but never. You got to worry about Soldatis if you're going to be racing against him, because if they find their sweet spot this weekend, they're definitely going to be a contender to take home the big prize money.
And you know what? Just quietly, has been racing for a lot of years and knows all the tricks. And you might think there's no tricks. See, exactly. He's gone in. I don't think that was deliberate. He's gone in and double bowled Rob Deckett here. So what that means is Rob Deckett's going to have 7 seconds to get into full stage once he lights the pre-stage bolts. Doesn't even become a thing, but 1005 to a 10160 foot. 005 is Deckett, and that's going to be quick. A 694 to a 694. I thought the 705 from Clint George was good, but side by side 694s, that is sensational. 196 miles an hour apiece. Both sides of the racetrack absolutely welded together. Sensational side-by-side pass from Rob Deckett and Chris Soldatis there. Only 0.05 of a second difference at the finish line.
Yeah, and that'll be another personal best for Decker, but look at him get out of the hole there. A 1005 to the 60 foot. That first increment, that is absolutely phenomenal there, especially for the first run this afternoon in these conditions. Like we said, it was going to be very tough to get a 6-second pass here in Pro Stock today. Rob Deckett, Chris Soldatis have done it side by side as they go down there now. Soldatis' crew, they'll be looking at those 60-foot times. Just a little bit behind by nearly 0.2 of a second. So imagine the increment improvement he can do there.
I said a 100 is about where you want to be, and that was exactly where they wanted to be. 690s, that's a sensational pass this early in the game. Now you can hear the familiar rumble of nitro, but it's not the nitro that we know. It is Top Fuel Motorcycle. And I can hear Chris Matheson out there on the Nitro Voodoo bike. Great to see him back here at Sydney Dragway. And if I'm not mistaken, this will be his first pass down the racetrack since the last time he went down. And the last time he went down, he made the quickest lap in Australian history with a 600 up at Willowbank Raceway back in June last year. So we've been talking about it for the better part of 15 years. The first 5-second run, it's still on the cards. It's still on the table for these guys. And for Chris Matheson, he wants it. That's been the whole objective of this Nitro Voodoo deal. He wants that 5-second run.
And he is a 7-time champion when it comes to top bikes, so it's not a championship he needs. He wants to have that next to his name where he was the first bike in Australia to run in the 5-second zone. Remembering, he bought this bike out of the States where it actually was a 580 bike over there. So it's got the potential. They've done a lot of work in the off-season, and he's just got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to riding bikes behind him, whether it be dirt bikes, circuit bikes, everything behind Chris Matho. Can he make it happen? He's so close. We'll have to wait and see. Remembering, he was holding on at 389 kilometres an hour in that run.
Hanging on. Danny Rickard is the rider who will be alongside him. You see very different burnout routines from these two motorcycles. Chris Matheson with the big burnout across the start line gets pushed back on the multi-cylinder supercharged motorcycle. Danny Rickard on the V-twin, basically short, sharp burnout straight into stage from him. Heat is your enemy on this kind of motorcycle.
Although converge here, the South Australian Danny Rickard taking on Chris Matheson. Queensland, they take off. Oh no, twist the throttle. Rickard's going to have another go as he goes towards the centre line. He's going to end up getting down the far end, but Matheson is offered early an 8.111 for Danny Rickard at 159 miles an hour. And Chris Matheson or the crew will have to go as they are inspecting the start line right now. You can see their crew there just having a look at the marks, trying to decipher what they need to do with the setup of the bike to try and get that down the track. They are pushing a phenomenal amount of horsepower through that bike. They'll be looking to see what they need to do to get it down here at Sydney Dragway. Of course, all the concrete now, the full quarter, that's what they'll be looking for. But unfortunately, it looks like Danny Rickard's going to get that 8111 on this one, and that'll be a good start to his qualifying time there. Obviously not up at the same speed as what Matho has done, the 6007s. We fire him up again. Looks like top bike here still going. Their qualifying session number 1. And Rob Cassar is coming out in lane number 2, the Ballistic Performance Parts. See him from Victoria there, the Kawasaki.
Indeed he is, and Lockie Island, who is riding the motorcycle owned by Rod Barchet. Nitrous assisted. So you've got two nitrous assisted bikes in here, very much in this. They're called funny bikes. Funnily enough, you've got funny cars, you've got dragsters, you've got top fuel motorcycles, and you've got funny bikes. Generally, funny bikes, they've got the nitrous assistance on there. Don't get me wrong. These things can run well and truly into the sixes. Even very low sixes. They can do big burnouts. And they can do big burnouts as well. Rob Cassar putting on a show out there in the ballistic performance parts Kawasaki.
Look, he's got no cabin and he's still got to get the smoke away. He's going to have to lift the visor off, I reckon, in a second with that burnout he's just done there. Lockie Island's going to be interesting to see how he goes. Coming off his pro bike there. He's done plenty of passes. Just trying to get that. Looks like he's trying to find the gear in that one. He's looking for some assistance from the crew. But I'm not liking the signs there from his crew as they walk over. And it looks like they may have given up a little bit of hope. And the signal goes over to Rob Cassar now to say, I think you're going to be doing a solo run on this one. Lockie Island gets off the bike. That's very unfortunate. Remember, he is qualifying though. It's not going to really affect him at this stage. They'll get another chance to come out and see if they can put a time down.
Yep, absolutely. Now, Rob Cassar, he has run in the 6-second zone. At Sydney Dragway before. Love to see him dip back into it. You'll hear these bikes, they sound a little bit different. Oh, a little bit of a kangaroo off the start line, but he actually settles it down just quite nicely. Holding onto it all the way through the finish line, and a 7:09 at 185 miles per hour. That's a very solid pass for him. Very solid run, 7:09, 185. And you can see up there on the big screen. These bikes, they move very quick, but they also pull up very quickly at the other end of the racetrack. The big supercharged multi-cylinder bikes, they do tend to struggle, as do the Harleys sometimes. Quite often you'll see them just park the nose of the motorcycle, the front wheel in the gravel trap down there. But
big heavy bikes to pull up. And
Remember
with that big tyre on the back, it's kind of weird how they need to operate them because they've got to lean the opposite way to where they want the bike to go. Very different to what you see in a road bike. So you've got to get used to riding the bikes. They're a little bit of a different beast, and just the amount of torque that they're sitting on top of. And what's scary with those nitro bikes is they're leaning over. They've got a full Kevlar chest pad on because if something comes out of that engine, you're laying on it. You're hugging it.
Absolutely. It's like spooning an Exocet missile. That's the best way to describe it. And you're right, they do wear the full Kevlar ballistic chest protection on those motorcycles. And, you know, we've seen some of those Nitro Harleys in the past where they've had engine problems, engine detonations, where the engine's actually hydraulic and they split the block, blow the head off the top of the engine. And we've actually seen the head go through the top frame rail of the motorcycle. So blow through chrome moly tubing, which is built not to break, and it goes straight through it. So you're absolutely right. It takes a very special type of person to jump on board one of those motorcycles. I'll give you the hot tip. We have got plenty more action coming through for you. In fact, I believe the next thing that we will see out here will be the very first qualifying session for the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship here at Sydney Dragway. And indeed it will be. I tell you what, and it's a good story, this one. Shane Olive and Larry Dixon will be our first pair up. Now, for Shane Olive, he is a guy who has reverence for the history of drag racing. He is a second-generation racer, has driven a lot of nitro cars over the years. This will be his first ever paired pass in a Top Fuel dragster, and he's lining up against the three-time NHRA champion Larry Dixon, driving for Rapisada Autosport International. That's not a bad way to kick off your Top Fuel career, is it?
Let's talk about drag run for drag run. Take Top Fuel out of the equation. Do you think they'd be similar on the amount of passes they've done? I mean, Larry's probably had a lot more opportunity, but at this level, he's done a lot more passes.
Honestly, Larry has made thousands and thousands of runs in a Top Fuel car. Now, Shane is probably the most experienced nitro pilot in Australia, but not in a Top Fuel dragster. He's driven a lot of funny cars and a lot of different funny cars over the years. But right now, he can't see the engine. He's strapped into the car. He's looking out with nothing in front of him. It's a bit of an unfamiliar territory for him, but he'll be fine. He's got a lot of experience, as we touched on. And Larry Dixon, well, this is his first time back in a car for quite some time, I believe. But let me tell you, he is not going to be phased whatsoever. He has made thousands of runs in these cars. Very, very experienced pilot. Has done pretty much everything there is to do in Top Fuel drag racing. He has done it. Driven for absolute legends of the sport like Don Prudhomme. He's driven for Alan Johnson, won championships for them. The guy knows how to race, and this is going to be a good one.
It's a career that goes back into the mid-90s there for Larry Dixon. And last time he was in Australia, I believe, was the Winter Nationals 2017 when he was racing for Rapisada there. So familiar with the team, which is good. And, of course, he's got a great crew chief on board as well.
Let's talk about his day job, though, Larry Dixon. He has got a two-seat Top Fuel car over in the United States. Yes, you heard me right. A two-seat Top Fuel car. He actually sells rides in it. And that's one of his endeavours that he does. And I tell you what, you would love to jump in and go for a passenger ride in that thing.
Imagine what you would have been like this week when you got the phone call just last week saying, hey, do you think you can make it out to Australia? Like, can you come over? We've got a spare car. Can you come to a few laps over in Australia? We're going to kick off the Burson's Auto Part Australian Top Fuel Championship. It's the first one like this. this. Yeah, but you can be part of it. Yeah, but you can be part of it.
Come and be exactly right. And speaking of being a part of it, we do have a commentator down there on the ground, an announcer who is familiar to quite a few people here at Sydney Dragway, but he loves his Top Fuel and his Nitro. His name is Stuart McCarthy. He's down there on the start line, mate. What's the vibe like coming up to this first qualifying session tonight?
Yeah, it's awesome, guys. Yeah, it's awesome, guys. It's obviously we've been up at the box nearly all day, and then coming down out here onto the racetrack, and you see the crowd over here on the right-hand side. It's super cool on the rocket side of the racetrack, and there's not a bad crowd, but let's see how noisy you guys can get, because obviously you're here to see these Top Fuel cars. So there's a few kids. So come on, kids, on the count of three, I want to see how loud you can get. 1, 2, 3. That sounded like about 10 here. Let's have another crack.
2 out of 10. What do you reckon, Stu?
Sorry, say that again.
2 out of 10. 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10, yeah, it was pretty ordinary. So the Top Fuel cars, they're coming out. They're loud. Come on, kids, let's have another crack. 1, 2, 3. Not bad. We'll have one more go. And then when they do come out, and obviously before they fire their cars up, we'll have another go. So, kids, this is another practice one. 1, 2, 3. Good. So when they come out through the tunnel and they sit here before they come through the water, the burnout pad, before they fire up, we'll get you kids to make as much noise as possible, and then hopefully they'll start their Top Fuel cars. Does that sound all right, kids? Cool. So it's up to you, kids. You're going to make it nice and loud. Because if you don't make it loud, they ain't going to start their cars. Rusty?
Oh, look, we are here, and look, we can see some of the crew chiefs rolling out. But the Burson's Auto Parts, what a way to kick off. The Burson's Auto Part Australian Top Fuel Championship. But with Shane Olive representing Burson's Auto Parts all over the side of his Top Fuel dragster. He's new to Top Fuel. He's not new to drag racing. He's been around them a very, very long time. He's worked on these cars for many, many years. He's driven Nitro funny cars, but now he's about to start his racing career. Yes, he's only ever licensed in a Top Fuel. But he's going to start his racing career here today in Top Fuel with the Lamatina Top Fuel racing team. Can't wait to see him get out on track. How is he going to kick things off? He sat out in the test session, but Phil's been down there, so a bit of data for the crew. As you can see, the amount of guys that it actually takes to run one of these cars. They had so many people on the start line. We're looking to kick things off here at Sydney Dragway at the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. The crews are coming out. It's going to be a Rapasada car. Verse a Lamatina car. It is going to keep going. The rivalry between the two. They absolutely love it. The two families. Great crew coming out. You can see Rapasada getting ready there for Larry Dixon. He's in the car. Bolted in. We are not far from going. The last car being towed out of Shane Olive. I tell you what, Stu, I'm pretty excited about what's about to happen, because if you're Shane Olive right now, you've got a guy beside you with so much experience, has so many records, achieved so much in Top Fuel. If you can come out on this first run, put a time down, and just show him what you've got. How much confidence does that build and take you into round number 1 of racing tomorrow?
100%. How impressive does this Burson Auto Parts of Shane Olive car look? It's just hiding behind their tow vehicle at the moment, but when you, the crowd, get to see it, what a beautiful looking car. And then obviously Larry Dixon. Kids, we're not too far away.
Yeah, we can see them starting to get the starter motors. Have a look at this too. I mean, we talk about Shane Olive and how good is the Lamatina Top Fuel Racing. They've got Luke Marsden now helping out with the tune on this one, who is well known around, I suppose, when it comes to drag racing, but trying to just improve by putting more people into the situation where they can learn about Top Fuel and improve what is in Australia.
Come on, kids, 1, 2, 3. You've got to go louder. Come on. 1, 2, 3. Oh, not yet. I thought you were a chance. You weren't loud enough.
They weren't ready for you, Stu. Were they?
No.
I think we can get behind. We can't be far off firing them up. Turn them over down the starter motor.
Another crack, kids. You want to have another crack, kids?
One more. Come on, Stu.
1, 2, 3. Oh, Larry Dixon looked to his, right. Kids, let's have another go. Kids, let's have another go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1,
Well, the serious business is about to start, Stu. And as you can hear, that is Larry Dixon. He has started that car, and we are not too far away from firing up Shane Olive alongside him. The very first pass in this brand spanking new livery for Shane Olive, the Burson Auto Parts on board, the Lamatina owned car. Shane Olive driven, Larry Dixon alongside him in the Rapisada Autosport International car.
Burnout done by Larry Dixon. Gets the tyres warmed up as Shane comes out for his first side-by-side pass in top fuel.
Just noticed the wheelie bar really shaking around a lot for Shane down there as he rolled through the burnout. Not quite sure what the story was there. The Rapisada car, Larry Dixon putting plenty of fuel through that car, as you can see it backing up from the burnout there. They are running that thing super rich here this afternoon just to try and combat these humid conditions that we've got. Lots of water grains in the air, lots of cloud around, but at the moment it is dry, and that's the main thing. We are going racing with Nitro, we are going racing with Top Fuel, and we are going racing with the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship.
Mate, the fastest accelerating cars on the planet about to be unleashed on Sydney Dragway here for the start of 2022, the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship.
These teams looking so professional. Down there you can see the new crew uniforms on both sides of the racetrack. Burson Auto Parts on board with Shane Olive and Atlantic Oils and the host of sponsors that they've got on board for Rapisada Autosport International. Cars lining up now. Olive in pre-stage, not too far away from a start. First pair of cars down the track for this qualifying session.
They both bump in. Candles are lit.
8.33 for Shane Olive. Moving around a little bit at the upper end, but 389, 297 miles per hour for Larry Dixon. It looked like it started shaking the tyres down there. But 8.33 to the 60 foot for Shane Olive. That thing was on a number. Got a little bit loose down there, and that's going to be something he's going to have to get used to, is the car moving around at the top end and him not having to drive it as hard. 6.72 for Larry Dixon, not what they would have been looking for. You can actually see the chatter marks out there from about 60 foot all the way through to 330. He got off the throttle because he knew that was pretty much all it was going to be. But 389, not a bad way to kick things off for Shane Olive.
That is a really competitive pass, considering we saw the 383 earlier from Pete coming out in our test session. So we know the track's got a little bit in it to come out there. And like you say, imagine the nerves.
Absolutely. Now, Stu, we might get you to go and grab Rob Cavignano, who's just walking back across the start line over in the Rocket Industries lane. He is the crew chief for Larry Dixon over there. He might be able to give you some kind of insight as exactly what happened, because he went out there and had a look at those tyre tracks, and those tyre tracks can certainly tell you a lot, mate.
Quickly come over. I thought he was coming this way. Quick chat, obviously. First time Larry's been back in the car in this country for a while.
He's a true. We're glad to have him. It shook the tyre. It started to paddle the wheel, and it just needs more power. And that's okay. We'll come out next time and we'll fix it.
Good to see you here.
Thank you.
Back up to you, boys.
Yeah, you could tell there by the amount of fuel. They weren't running that one. That was a little bit fat there, so they're looking for a bit more power. Obviously, underestimated the track maybe just a little bit there in the first round, just trying to get it down, get some data on this one. But they'll look back. I'm sure they'll hit that pretty hard in the second round of qualifying here this afternoon. Next up, though, you can see Phil Reed in the Hydrolink Top Fuel car is set to go. You can see brother Bruce Reed, of course, the crew chief, hand on the cockpit, ready to go. They've got a new chassis under this car, so they've actually changed over to the Black Mamba number 2, as they like to call their chassis, Black Mamba, and it is out there. He sits in a slightly different position in this car now, Reed. He's just a little bit lower in the sitting position, and looking very comfortable in the car last week after pulling off some 380 passes in testing just 1 week ago. So a bike. The Rapisada car number 2 coming out for the first round of qualifying alongside Phil Reed in the Hydrolink Top Fuel Dragster. Great to see both these teams going at it once again. So much racing pedigree there in the Reed racing outfit. You can see Phil just goes through, conduct the burnout. Wayne Hevy, short, sharp burnout. First time back after several months.
Yeah, long time off. He actually drove the car that we just saw go down the racetrack, Rapisada Autosport, when they tested the car earlier on. Late last year, I should say. Drove that car, performed everything well, did everything it needed to, but it's the first time back in the seat of this car for 2 years, thanks to the COVID-enforced lockdown. It's just been a long break, and he can't wait to smash a loud pedal with this one. He's got a great young crew chief in the form of Santino Rapasada, who makes the tuning calls on this car. And he's a multi-time Australian champion, very, very good racer, multi-time Australian champion as well in the alcohol ranks, so he can drive pretty much anything. He's used to driving anything, but let's talk about Phil Reid. He's a 3-time Australian champion in his own right, driving for one of the most iconic names in drag racing, his dad, Jim Reid Racing. It really is a fantastic matchup, this one. Hydrolink on board, McDonald's, also Valvoline, Odyssey Batteries, Coletta Motorsport, Pacific Bulls. Long list of sponsors on board for the Reid team. Atlantic Oil, Santos Cranes, Uplift Cranes, all on board for the Rapasada team as well. Saw a 389 out of Shane Olive. What can these two do? Straight up in smoke from Wayne Newby. Phil Reid straight down the centre of the racetrack to a 385. 312 miles per hour. He goes to the #1 qualifying spot. 385. How's the short time on that? 0.820 to the 60-foot timers for Phil Reid. That is an incredible 60-foot time. Stu McCarthy, I think you need to go over and try and grab Bruce Reid and have a chat to him. Make sure you're holding that microphone up further up too, Stu. Just
thank you,
us
Rusty.
down to you, mate.
Bruce, you've got a smile on your face, obviously. Brand new car, real test run you've been able to do. One thing I noticed before, your brother started off the burnout when you said go and go. You took in a big, deep breath and just let it out just to calm yourself.
That's only because I'm a bundle of crap before every run, but once the motor starts, as any of the crew guys will tell you, once the motor starts, it's up to the driver. And we have a saying, it was perfectly good when it left the pits.
That's true. You must be very pleased with that just then.
Yeah, first up run's pretty good. So, yeah, it's our first full pass, so very happy.
Bigger things to come. Bigger things to come.
I hope so.
Well, to put that in perspective, that is just over 500 kilometres an hour. That time, 312 miles an hour. So he's cracked the 500 kilometre an hour barrier there in 1,000 foot. So only running 1,000 foot in top fuel. So just over 300 metres. We're talking just over 300 metres, up to 500 kilometres an hour. These are the fastest accelerating cars on wheels. It doesn't get much better than that. The G forces they pull, obviously greater than that of a space shuttle launch. And next up, though, we're lining the cars up. They're getting turned around. A little spotter out on track at the moment. But next up, it looks like we are going to have Pete Shibris, who came out earlier in a test run there in the 380s already this afternoon in a bit of a test hit, taking on Phil Lamartina. So they've already gone side by side, and now they're going to finish off our first round of qualifying here for the Burson's Auto Part. Australian Top Fuel Championship here at Sydney Dragway. And look, the crew chiefs are waiting to go. They're pretty eager to get underway. I can see down here, if I look at the Shibris crew, keen to get underway. Of course, Ben Patterson and Tim Adams there working together in this one like they did back at the Winter Nationals, where they managed to break the national record, not once, but they pretty much ran under the original national record before that meeting 3 times. Looking to see if they can beat that 374 with the 2. Conditions are probably not ideal here this afternoon. Hopefully tomorrow, though, clearer skies. Never know though with Pete, because they are looking, judging by the number, his race number is what they look at. They're going to push it till they match his race number. Remembering his race number is 3698. That is the number they're looking for. Well, it happened here this afternoon. He fires them up. Phil Lamartina fired up alongside in the Fuchs lubricant. Lamartina, Top Fuel Racing, Top Fuel Dragster. Phil Lamartina, obviously, he's a 2-time championship winner. But the team itself has won 4 championships. So Lamartina team have won 4 championships. Phil piloting the car to 2 of those. He definitely does have a good crew behind him. Aaron Hainbridge will obviously be turning the screws on that one too to make sure the tune is on song. They've already got themselves that little test hit there. So we'll see the changes that are made. It blew the tyres off last time. Didn't really go too far. Shibris already with some good data on board. Levy back in the 380. So far we've got a 385 here from Phil Reid and a 389 from Shane Olive. You think with the data and the runs we've had from Pete Shibris, he might go a little bit better than that. Phil Lamartina though, they've had that one run. What can Aaron do with the setup on the car this time? Two drivers that do not like to come second. They are clinical when it comes to getting these cars set up and ready to go.
And I've got bad news for you. I can see our starter out there waving the hands and putting the fingers across the throat, because if we look down towards the top end of the racetrack, I can see that there is some wet stuff coming. And I think there is already some wet stuff falling down there in the turnaround area. We've obviously got the radio call from the top end of the racetrack, and that is unfortunate. That is extremely unfortunate.
And is that Lamartina's car running on? Are they trying to get that car stopped?
No, that'll be fine.
No, there we go.
It's just using up all the fuel that's in the line. Put your hands together for Shane Olive as he comes back along the return road in the Burson Auto Parts off-fuel dragster. First paired pass down the track alongside Larry Dixon, and does it with the 389, currently sitting number 2, I think it is, in the qualifying list. So having a good pass so far, but the wet stuff falling at the most inopportune time there, Mr. Kavanagh, that is not what you want when you're just about to bump into stage in a couple of top-fuel dragsters.
Knowing, though, that you've had cars go down before, they've already hit the 500-kilometre-an-hour barrier, would you want to be piling? If you can see that, surely the nerves are there. You know it's going to take less than 4 seconds to get down. Can you get it run and done? Unfortunately, it looks like the precipitation will be falling at the far end, and that is going to stop them from running, so they're going to have to push these cars back, which means with how volatile the fuel is in these things and what the engines go through just to perform that burnout means they've got a little bit of maintenance to do on these as well. There's a fair bit of maintenance they'll need to go through and check as they start to push the cars back. It's not as simple as your normal street car where you just shut it off. They'll want to be changing and looking at the oil. They'll definitely need to refill. With the amount of fuel that they go through just to perform the burnout, they will need to refuel that one. Remembering the average run down the track will use somewhere between about 19 to 23 litres of fuel. So just performing the burnout as part of that, they only carry just enough to get the burnout done and get down. And we'll have to, hopefully this will clear up very, very shortly as we see Wayne Newby is coming back as well. Big shout out to Wayne as he heads back down. Unfortunately, wasn't the run he wanted, but they'll turn that car around again and try and get it out there. Obviously, they haven't had a hit on this car this weekend yet.
Apologise to anybody watching on the live stream. We had a few technical issues today. If it's not the internet, if it's not the hamster on the wheel, it's the audio that started playing up. So hopefully we've got that fixed up now, and hopefully everything is okay. We can see that wet stuff starting to pull in from the top end of the racetrack. So hopefully we're not too far away from this passing, and we can get back in and hopefully dry the racetrack and get it back into a raceable shape. Unfortunate though, because it's not easy to just fire these cars up again and go, oh, yep, no worries, we'll send it on down the racetrack. It's not quite that simple, Matty.
And I can see the serious discussions are actually between the crew chiefs from both teams. So they're obviously discussing what they want to do in terms of turnaround time, whether they want to take the cars back to service them, or whether they're going to want to be able to do this somewhere in the stage. I know the covers are coming out there for Phil Lamartina, but looks like Pete has got the car back under cover here in the tower.
The interesting thing is that these are the only 2 cars that came out for the test pass earlier on today. So they've already got some data on the racetrack. They already know how the cars are going to go down there. So whether or not they take them back and just get them ready for the second round of qualifying, I'm not sure. I don't know how it's going to go at this point. We'll have to wait and see. But right now we are going to have to take a short break in proceedings. We do apologise to everybody for this, but unfortunately the weather is out of our control. Not a lot we can do about it. What we might do is take a few words from our fantastic sponsors here at the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship and Sydney Dragway.
Atlantic Performance Oils are an Australian-owned and operated company specialising in the production of specialty and everyday lubricants for use in a wide variety of applications. Manufactured in our state-of-the-art facility at Ingleburn, we cater for everyday drivers and heavy transport, earth-moving and industrial applications including hydraulics and agriculture and mining. We also manufacture a wide range of grease, coolant and gear oils to suit your needs. So visit atlanticoil.com to find a distributor near you for Atlantic quality products.
Hey fellas, do you hear that? That's passion and determination. It's time for us to listen to our fans. We'll never turn our backs on them, because that is who we are. We are the West. We are open to everyone. We are loyal. We are listening. We are passionate. We are family. We are.
I really enjoy my job. You get to work on big machines.
Just great career choice.
Stop thinking and just go for it.
So for everybody watching online, whether you're watching on the Top Fuel Australia page or whether you are watching on the Sydney Dragway official YouTube channel, one or the other, we are going to kill the stream fairly shortly. Obviously, we are going to be down for a little bit. Stay tuned to all the social media pages. We will come back live with whatever happens next. Next time Top Fuel is back on track, we will be back. Whenever we've got racing back, we will also be back on the Sydney Dragway official YouTube channel as well. So please keep that in mind, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We hope we see you a little bit later on. And for everybody here at the venue, don't go anywhere. We're not dead, we're just resting. We're waiting for this to pass over, and hopefully we will get back to racing as soon as it does. The great thing is there's not a huge amount on the radar. Hopefully we'll be able to get back to racing as soon as possible once this passes over. We do thank you for your patience.